A viewer recently said he wanted to see Barbarian Breakout beaten without conflicts, just as the developers intended. Barbarian Breakout has been on my list for a little while, and I thought to myself, gosh darn, that's a great idea. Barbarian Breakout without conflicts. This is one of those maps which frustrated me to no end when I was younger, because the AI just won't let you build up an army, and I hated that. Now, that's what I love. Having to problem solve how to handle the early aggression is exactly what makes this map challenging, but fun. Let's just dive directly into it. This is a small map. You play as either red in the overworld or tan underground. The two unplayable factions, green and blue, are always stronghold towns, hence the barbarian part. The faction starting zones are separated by tier 6 creatures, which makes it quite difficult to break them early, unless you have the starting armies of green and blue. This is why they get aggressive early. They have actual armies. This gives us very little time to build up a town, and I think the intended way to play this scenario is to turtle up and defend sieges until you get a decent enough army to go on the offensive, making it a deceptively slow map. But that's not gonna stop me, oh no! I will still find a way to do this at a blistering pace. Max Verstappen, get ready to learn a thing or two. Why is no conflicts important to making this a bit more fun? Well, you can get the Grail early, and considering the opponents' towns are very close by, and the AI rarely prepares for potential Dimension Door strategies, I would barely have any interesting fights. And I wanna have some interesting fights. I did enough Dimension Door shenanigans last week. It's time for some real barbaric fights. This is gonna be the real Barbarian Breakout. I'm playing as Tan, and I'm doing this as Stronghold. Green and blue are always Stronghold, and for good measure, red's gonna be Stronghold as well. Let's devise a plan on how to approach this map. The Grail will play a big role in this. I'll map out the seed where I find it as early as possible, and using the Grail income, I'll build up the town early in order to stifle early aggression. This almost always means getting rocks and then Thunderbirds when playing Stronghold for me. From experience, blue is usually the first faction to go on the offensive, but green is not far behind. If I can take out blue's strongest hero, I can then attack them ASAP afterwards, chain the army back to my main town, poor man's town portal my main hero back, and then go after green and red. Sounds easy in theory? Not quite as easy in practice. Since all towns are stronghold towns, no high level magic is gonna play a role. Just good old barbaric fighting, just as the gods intended. We're turning stronghold into fast hold today. Alright, let's go. My hero of choice is Dessa, as he has the logistics specialty. Other great stronghold heroes would be Craghack, as usual, and Gurnison, if he wasn't taken by blue. Shiva could also work, since I plan on using rocks and Thunderbirds, but the logistics specialty is so strong when doing maps fast. Scenario bonus is wood and ore, as I need lots of both to build my town. No more explanations are needed, on we go. Remember to like, comment and subscribe. Teehee! I entered the Sulfur Dune Guard battle, put View Hex Grid back on, cause I must have hit F6 at some point, and reset once. If I'm not the first to move when I reset here, I will not get my seed. But Gogs are slower than Wolf Riders, so it works as intended. I then pick up the Skull Helmet, flag the ore mine, pick up some ore, and end the turn in this suspiciously random spot. And wow! I certainly am lucky to find the Grail already on day 2. If you're wondering why I don't leave my slower units in town before heading out on day 1, it's actually AI movement manipulation, believe it or not. If I go out with just the Wolf Riders, blue would then go aggressive on day 3. I build a Grail structure and prepare to head out again. If I walk out with just one Wolf Rider, blue then goes aggressive on day 4 instead, so all 5 are needed. Yeah, it really is this specific. I head back east to pick up some resources and some experience from a chest, before moving a bit southwest. Gretchen is then recruited, who brings some army with her to flag the sawmill before she takes on some hobgoblins guarding more resources. Protecting my biggest goblin stack with a bunch of 1 stacks makes this fight easy and pretty much lossless. Losing 5 isn't that big of a deal, and I start building towards the cliff nest by getting a wolf pen. On day 5, I recruit Mephala and build the cliff nest. Recruit everything in town, the Grail income is already paying off massively, and transferring all of Gretchen's army over to Mephala. which then goes down to transfer a bunch of the army over to Dessa. I leave the goblins on Mephala, as I don't want to lose a bunch of them to the wood elves guarding the crystal mine. The battle against the elves is fairly straightforward. I don't care about the centaurs at all, so I send them forward to avoid taking hits on my stronghold units. My own elves are just fodder as well. The wood elves, thankfully, love hitting the centaurs, so I can just use the 3 rocks and the wolf riders to slowly take out the elves. Only losing centaurs and wood elves is great, and I can flag the crystal mine, preparing to get behemoths in the future, transferring everything but the rocks back to Mephala, and we can end day 5. Day 6 is pretty uneventful, as I just collect resources, build a mage guild in town, and leave Dessa in town to regain spell points, preparing to enter the zone guarded by the harpies. On day 7, Dessa gets some army back from Mephala. The fight is doable without the wolf riders, with just the 3 rocks and centaurs, without losing any rocks, but it takes so long, so I speed it up by taking the wolf riders as well. The auto combat result is acceptable, losing only 3 wolf riders, and we get advanced logistics. Not bad. I forgot to transfer the wolf riders back to Mephala, but it's no big deal. Mephala loses some movement points, but who really cares? Dessa then collects a bunch of experience, getting air magic and expert logistics already. This is super nice. I also build a citadel to increase creature growth for the next week. Week 2, and Dessa continues powering up, picking up +1 spell power, a bunch of experience, which gets him advanced air and advanced wisdom, as well as the Orb of Firmament, which powers up air spells, which means more powerful magic arrows, before heading back. Blue is approaching. I recruit everything and leave Mephala in town, just in case Blue sieges. Which they don't. So the next day, with his enormous amounts of movement points, Dessa prepares for the first hero fight. But first, Mephala takes his rocks, I upgrade the cliff nest, and we have 9 Thunderbirds ready for action. This is my cue. It's time to go on the offensive. A little bit of army tinkering, and I'm ready. Autocombat loses 14 Wolf Riders and 1 Thunderbird, which is okay, but I don't want to lose any Thunderbirds. I'd rather lose 30 Goblins than 1 Thunderbird. Gotta do this manually. Gurnison's 10 attack indicates he has some artifact power, and I want those artifacts. I don't want to let him flee. Not much is happening on turn 1. I wait with my faster units and get a couple of ranged hits in with my pathetic number of ranged units. Since Gurnison moves his units a bit forward, I try to move my goblins forward enough to not be in range of too much of his army power. And finally, I get to move in with my Thunderbirds, taking out 2 of his rocks. Stupidly enough, I forgot to cast magic on turn 1, but oh well. I magic arrow his wolf raiders on turn 2, before taking out his rocks with my T-birds and then his wolf raiders with a retaliation. Since my birds are a little low on HP, I hit his ogres with my wolf riders to encourage Gurnison to hit them instead of the birds. Which works. On turn 3, I try to calculate whether I could finish him off before he retreats, but unless some miracle happens, it's impossible. So he flees. At least I didn't lose any birds. I start heading straight for Blue's town, but we can already see green approaching from the north. Week 2, day 3, I leave the slower units on Mephala and send Dessa towards Blue. Their town is quite well guarded, so I have to take this fight seriously. Autocombat wins, but loses every Thunderbird. That's unacceptable. The strategy in this fight is to hope Serena sends the melee units outside the castle gate, because if she doesn't, I'll surely lose some birds. Magic Arrow goes on the orcs for that reason, and now we hope. I wait with everything, and it sure looks like she's going on the offensive, but a stupid goblin morale closes the gates. A gargoyle morale then makes sure I lose a bird, but I would have lost that anyway. Then some goblin on goblin action. I should have taken the retaliation on one of the 1-snacks, but I was certain I would one-shot for some reason. I then continue to gang up on the goblins, taking them out after a morale on my wolf riders. She then moves her rocks forward, and I take out 2 of them with my own birds, finishing them off at the beginning of the next turn. My wolf riders and goblins then tag team her wolf riders, before I just wait for the next turn. A magic arrow finishes off the orcs, and I move my units a bit around for some godforsaken reason. Who knows why? The Thunderbirds eventually finish off her hobgoblins, before I can combo the ogres down with a magic arrow into Thunderbird damage. Although I have lots of goblins, the Thunderbirds are doing all the work here. I love them. Losing one bird is acceptable, but blue is still not vanquished. A couple of level ups nets me expert wisdom and expert air. I'm looking really strong. I leave Dessa in town, recruit Terek, and upgrade the goblin barracks in my newly acquired town. Derek gets the entire army and goes out looking for the final blue hero, flagging the sawmill before finding Moandor. I'll get him the next day, I guess. I then prepare to chain the army back to my starting town for when Terek deals with Moandor. The next day, I just let auto-combat do the fight. And blue is vanquished. Yay! After building the Hall of Valhalla, I attack the Naga Queens guarding the portal, retreat, and recruit Dessa again in my main town. For those wondering, this is what a poor man's town portal is. Without showing the entire chain, I eventually get the army back to Dessa after recruiting a couple of new heroes. I leave the imps and gogs from Rushka and just use the quicker units to optimize movements. So only hobgoblins, wolf riders and thunderbirds. On towards green. First up, Tyraxor. Auto-combat does well, but I'm hoping I can do better. A magic arrow on his orcs, and on the offensive with my thunderbirds. I take out a bunch of his army, but I end up doing worse than auto-combat. I was hoping to actually get him, but I end up sacrificing 11 more hobgoblins than auto did. Oh well, the birds survived at least. Yogg is next, and honestly, after the last fight, I just accept auto-combat. I doubt I'll be able to kill Yogg before he flees anyway. Minus 22 hobgoblins is fine. I then just go through the portal, setting my sights on the green town. The town's name honestly looks like someone had a stroke trying to type strength, which I never realized until I looked at the town while writing this script. Stremgith? What the hell? Yogg is back, with a whole 1 goblin, which is killed with 1 magic arrow. Easy peasy. And green is vanquished. Only red left. I do a bunch of trading in the marketplace, which lets me buy a behemoth crag and recruit 1 behemoth. Then I just head straight for the unicorns guarding the subterranean gate. Magic arrow does just 5 damage too little to take out a war unicorn, so I use it on the normal 3 stack instead. After the war unicorns move forward, I use a 1 stack to take retaliation and let all the unupgraded ones move forward before I begin hitting the upgraded stack with all relevant units in range. A bird hit plus lightning bolt proc takes them out, and on turn 2, I use the unicorn's own tactics against them. I blind the biggest stack before hitting the top stack. The bird's morale, but I don't hit again, as I want to hit the bottom stack as well. I want the 1 stack to take retaliation first though. Behemoths take out the unicorn 1 stack, and 2 hits from the wolf riders and 1 from the thunderbird takes out the 2 stack. The final unicorn stack is taken out by taking retaliation on the behemoth, magic arrow, plus hits from the wolf riders and a 1 stack of hobgoblins. Fun fact, if I wait until week 3 and get more army from Stremgith, the unicorns always join, but that's slower. I then pick up pathfinding, which is very useful in the snow in the overworld. I find Craghack the next day, who the auto-combat loses to. This fight is fairly straightforward. Letting him move all his units forward, I inch my units a bit forward while staying out of his units' reach, before I take the rock's retaliation on the 1 stack. I believe Magic Arrow has the most impact on the Wolf Riders, so I cast it on them, and let my birds fry his birds a little bit. Same procedure the next turn, Magic Arrow Wolf Riders, bird on bird action next. 2 stacks down. The AI makes a great play to take retaliations on my Thunderbirds with his Wolf Riders, setting up a hit from his bigger Swordsman stack later. I then go for his Goblins with my Behemoths and my Wolf Riders. Army preservation isn't that important now, as I doubt Red has a stronger hero waiting. I lose 1 bird to his Swordsman, but they're killed the next turn to Magic Arrow plus bird damage plus Lightning Bolt proc. What a satisfying combo. After hitting his orcs and moving forward with the Wolf Riders, Mr. Hack throws in the towel. Barely any losses. especially compared to auto. We're doing it, lads! Gondola is then taken out by a well-aimed magic arrow. Mechanical skill at display here, folks. Week 3, and I cross my fingers I can reach before Red gets more army to recruit. But we just find the hack himself with a single goblin. LOL, am I right? A nice mass haste, and I let the birds get the final hit of the scenario in. Deserved for carrying me. If blue had the equestrian's gloves instead of red, maybe this could have been done faster. But I have no complaints. Red has been vanquished, and the scenario is won. In 15 days, as Stronghold. 496 score, and Archangel as well. Very, very nice. This can absolutely be done faster with Conflux, and maybe other factions, but I don't care. This is thematic. Barbarian Breakout done, Barbarian style. Is this something you enjoyed? Not going for the absolute fastest, but the fastest I can do with a specific faction? If yes, are there any scenario plus faction combinations you'd like to see? Let me know in the comments. Also remember to like and subscribe. I appreciate all of you. I also recently got YouTube memberships available, so if you want to become a channel member, you're more than welcome to become one. Until next time, have a nice day.